Thanks for listening to the Intersections in Learning and Development cast, a series from the training, learning, and development community. My name is Lisa Crockett, and this cast focuses on forging relationships that foster effective learning, no matter where you start. Whether you design, develop, deliver, support, or consult, and/or all of the above, we hope to provide you with new ideas, inspiration, and connections across the L&D community.
Welcome to Intersections in Learning. I am Lisa Crockett, and I have my host, Invisible Monique St. Paul, producing in the background, and the fantastic Erin Chancellor here to talk to today.
Hey,
Erin
guys.
she's an instructional designer, and she has a passion for providing learning opportunities for people's careers. And I have to tell you, if you have to follow Erin on LinkedIn, like she posts the best posts. So I can totally see how you're into learning and development. Like I am like riveted to your posts ever since I found you. So it's really cool. And she works for a software enablement company right now. So she has a master's degree. I hope I get this right. Virginia Commonwealth University. And you can teach ESL. You have that endorsement, which is really cool. Which must
English
really
to speakers of other languages.
Yeah, and that's got to help in instructional design a lot, especially because you have to think of it from that perspective, and that's always been one of my challenges, actually. But before we get into questions and grilling Erin, I want to give her a chance to talk a little bit about herself and why she's here with us today. So I'll turn it over to you.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. So hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I see a lot of familiar faces and friendly names in the chat, and I'm so thrilled that you guys came this morning to listen to me. Thank you, Jacob. So I am. What's really cool, I am an instructional designer. I'm a curriculum developer right now at a big tech company, and I'm at the point here after changing my career. I started the journey, the venture of the career change during Great Resignation time, 100% virtually, all remotely, starting in the fall of 2020. And now at this point, I've been working professionally as an instructional designer for the past 9 months. So my foot is in the door. I'm here. I'm doing it every day. I'm excited about the line of work that I found myself in after navigating the career change and change of mindset and meeting new people and all of that stuff. So I am here today with you all as an instructional designer, which is really, really, really cool. I'm so thrilled to say that.
You know, coming from a different career, that's like, it must have been very challenging coming over to this. And I'm curious, like you said, 9 months, like what is the difference between how you looked at a project, let's say 9 months ago, to the very last project that you worked on?
I think that the biggest difference is honestly the first, I don't think that I necessarily felt insecure when I was given my first project, but I do feel comfortable saying that word, like insecure, nervous, because my immediate reaction was, oh, what do I do? You know, like it was there, it happened, I got the job, it was in front of me. This is the task at hand. And I thought, oh, what do I do? What do I do? So I can say that I had a fantastic mentor and a really incredibly supportive and kind team that just sort of like just brought me in with encouragement and, you know, helping hands, pointers, peer reviews, you know, links of places. Like I had all of this support that I could possibly need and a shoulder to lean on from my mentor. So
Awesome.
I would say that the first project was a lot of me asking for help, asking for affirmation, you know, just really kind of, I'm new here was my total vibe at the beginning. And then I've developed and I've grown as a professional over the past several months. And I got to the point where I actually started helping other newer, you know, teammates that came on. I kind of became the person that knew what to do and knew where to go and how to manage things. And, you know, now I get my projects, my assignments, and it's routine. I'm like, cool, here we go. Let's get started. I'm going to do this, this, and this. And I'm just I'm rocking and rolling. It's great. It's
That's
great. I would
awesome.
say it took I would say 6 months on, kind of the long end, but it did take several months
Yeah.
to get over that
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
here,
6 months makes
approach.
total sense, though. I mean, in any job, I mean, 6 months is like
Mhm.
the sort of period of getting your feet wet, culture, understanding your environment, getting to know your team. It makes complete sense. And I think it's funny because I
Mhm.
think you hit the nail on the head about the hardest thing about freelancing. You have to end up doing that with each new client and sometimes with each
Mm.
new project, depending on the SMEs. So getting in that zone and that comfortable place, like that's a beautiful thing and sort of a wonderful like concoction for a freelancer since
Mhm.
you're on the contract side too. I mean, it's like that beautiful
Mhm.
storm of, okay, well, but certain things aren't changing every single time. It sounds like that's a good,
Right.
comfortable place.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, that's
jealous.
completely right. But so do you feel, Lisa, do you feel like I'm new here for each new project and each new client,
Yeah,
or
I would say it not I'm new here exactly. You know, I come in with the confidence of understanding and having done this for too long for me to actually mention the number of years now, but
Mhm.
certainly getting used to what a client wants, right? All of that,
Mhm.
how a SME likes to work. Every SME is different inside of an organization or outside. So
Mhm.
all of that comes into play unless you've got that same group every time. And I actually think when I spoke in the freelancing conference a few weeks ago, even with the same people and the same, there is variation, but there's comfort in being in the same organization, I would think. No?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is. To have the same group of, core
Yeah.
people, core teammates, the same procedures. It's
Yeah.
I enjoy the sense of community.
So when you're like inside of the organization and you're thinking about your internal clients for now,
Mhm.
expectations, what they think the learning product might be, but then there's that reality of what we can produce. Like
Mhm.
I want Pixar, we've got Beyond, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like how do you set expectations in terms of what you can produce and the timeline that's given to you, um, and what they're kind of, yeah, reconcile that, I think is the word I'm
Yeah,
looking.
that's a really good question because the work that I'm doing right now has a relatively, tight timeline. It's
Sure.
important to get the learning in the LMS and available to the learners, and get as much
Mhm.
in there as high quality as possible. We're populating this LMS, and so it's important to get things done, you know, fairly quickly. Um, and I think that it's an interesting question. When I think about the SMEs and the stakeholders that I work with, I don't know if they come and if they bring requests to the learning design team already knowing what the end product, what they want it to look like. I think that speaks to the trust that our stakeholders and
Yes.
SMEs have in our learning design team, where they can just say, we need to have this done. Our learners need to be able to, they need to know this and they need to be able to do this. And these are the resources that we have available, for you to, pull it together, and I think I'm really lucky in that sense that there's a lot of trust there. So that's one perspective, that's one, kind of learning request that we get,
Mhm.
where it's just, this is what we need, trust you to do it. And then another kind of work that I do is more consulting on a learning project that a subject matter expert themselves has pulled together,
Oh, neat.
where I'll go in and I'll, kind of spot check it,
Mhm.
bring in some adult, learning, methodology theories, and, fix up the language for voice and tone, that kind of thing. So I've got a range of projects that I work on, and I think, the best thing is the trust that exists,
Yeah.
where we're great learning designers on the team, and we make
You
great projects, great curriculums and
you
courses.
guys must and you must have like a really well-established process so that that expectation sort of, it's not guesswork for your SMEs. They know what you're already producing, and that's their expectation. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the ideal place to get to. It's like that golden
Yeah, that we have that. And then we also have something that I absolutely love, and it's
Right.
working with the same SME or stakeholder more than once.
Yes.
So I found a great, so we have, we're a huge company and there's lots of people to work with and they're all over the world. And it's, a really cool, like keep you on your toes, meeting new people, developing new relationships kind of thing. But I really, really like when I get the same SME again, so that they can just say, hey, remember what you did last time, Erin?
Love that.
Yeah, that's cool. Or they'll know exactly where to go in the project folder to drop the resources. It's just,
Oh, yes.
it's lovely to work with the same
Oh.
person. And I bet you feel you have return clients as freelance.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the best part of
Yeah.
it, right? Is,
Yeah.
when you get your cadre of clients, so I try to rotate like 4 or 5 clients, and that's a nice when you get that rhythm going. But
Mm-hmm.
onboarding is hard, to your point,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure all of us as instructional designers have experienced that, just getting a process down for collecting feedback, making sure everybody's on the same page. It's usually the communication in my experience, not really the content piece of it or even the storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Once you can get there, that stuff can be beautiful, but it's just getting
Mm-hmm.
everyone on the same page and communicating, because that's where the tensions tend to come in. And it's totally
Mm-hmm.
normal because our lives are all
It is.
crazy.
It's totally normal. And
Yeah.
I would say to that, to that effect, where it comes to communication, I found
Mhm.
great success in just being really friendly with SMEs, but also being really encouraging for them as well.
Mhm.
Like, oh, that's, just when they have great ideas, or they have a great
Mhm.
resource, or, once they feel comfortable kind of contributing to the arena of learning
Yes.
design, where I feel comfortable asking questions that are probably the most basic thing possible to ask about a
Oh,
product
I
at
love
a
that you
SaaS
said that.
company. And I'll ask them, and we just kind of get that friendliness and
Yeah.
conversation back and forth. I think it just helps it
It
just
makes
helps
all the
everything.
difference. You know,
Oh
uh, it
yeah.
God, I love it. You're hitting on so many just brilliant things in terms of the ID world. And, when you seriously, like when you come up against challenges with SMEs, and I have to think about this all the time, right? Usually, if you think about whether or not they've ever done this before, if you think
Mm-hmm.
about whether they're comfortable, once you make someone comfortable, like they have the same questions we do. We don't know the content, but they don't know the process. And no
Mm-hmm.
one likes to feel like they don't understand or they're holding something up. And that validation and that acknowledgement, like you said, like that's everything in keeping the relationship going.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you build that trust, which is why it's lovely that you have that in your environment right now. I love that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm going to get a little tactical on
Okay.
you now. And I want to talk,
Mhm.
in this community, we talk a lot about accessibility. Luis did the wonderful conference. Any of you who haven't seen it, is it free replay on TLDC on accessibility, but really important topic for learning designers, everyone in L&D right now. How do we make sure our courses are accessible, inclusive, all of those things? So I'm curious, like, how do you incorporate those features into the work that you're doing?
Mm-hmm. Um, well, I know that as a company, so
Mhm.
company-wide, team-wide, of course, we make sure that every image has alt text and every video has closed captions. So
Mhm.
just across the board to be signed off on the Q&A,
Yeah.
ready to go live, for the learners, all the images will have alt text, all the videos will have
Nice.
closed caption, which is really nice. Something that I do personally that I found really early on. So I really like the visual aspect of learning. I make the posts on LinkedIn. I create all those in Canva. I love
Yeah.
the visual aspect of the work that we do. So I can say, just like as one technical thing that I do, is I always check the color contrast between the
Nice.
background color of an image and the text that's on it. You know, that's like one little tidbit. The AIM contrast checker. Do you know that website?
I don't, but I'm going
I
to
will
now.
definitely share it. It's my go-to, where you can pop in the hex codes for the two different colors for the different layers of your image, and then you can adjust the hue, and then it'll yeah, that's the one. AIM AIM contrast checker.
We'll
So
look
that's
that up and
one of
send
my
that
like
link.
little tidbits personally
Yeah.
that I do. Inclusivity. Um, Inclusivity. Let's see. One little tidbit of something that we do is to make sure that in our writing, we're not using any like idioms or colloquial terms that are specific
Mhm.
to Americans or specific to, wherever else.
Yes.
So that it doesn't
So
get
hard.
confusing when people from multiple languages of many places in the world
Yeah.
are reading our learning.
That sounds funny until you're someone from another language who speaks another language natively. Is like, well, it's not. It's very specific.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of one right now, but anyone that I think of right now, because I'm on the spot, it's going to be one that like I made up. That's not an actual thing. Like, don't butter your bread before you toast it. Like, I don't know. Like,
Of course, you can't think of it right when you. Okay, let's look at the chat. Someone in the chat help us out
but
here.
yeah, just there
Come
are
on,
some
Kim. I
things
know
that
you
we
know
say.
those things like hit the road.
Hit the
What?
road. Yeah.
Hit the road.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
or
So
when
try
push
to
comes
keep
to
that kind
shove.
of thing. Don't
Kind of.
count your chickens. Yeah.
Yes, don't count your
Fish are
chickens. Why
cut
wouldn't
bait.
I count my chickens? I need to know how many I have, for goodness sake.
Just to see it's even regional to.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think
Where
of
we
one
live.
someone brought up to me the other day, and excuse me, I'm actually looking. Here it is. I'm looking at a Post-it because I had to write this down because I
I
have
love
not
your
seen.
Post-its.
I have not seen Schitt's Creek, but one of my clients was laughing when I asked them to explain something in a different way to me, and they said,
Mhm.
"Lisa, you need to watch Schitt's Creek. Think about fold in the cheese." And then I started thinking about it with no context, and
Mhm.
I went, "What does that even mean? Like, I know what
Mhm.
it means. You know what it means."
Mhm.
But does everybody out there know what fold in the cheese means necessarily? And
Yeah.
is that an
Mhm.
American thing, or is that I grew up in the 70s on Kraft macaroni and cheese thing? I don't
Mhm.
know. Ugh.
And I would say that the last thing that I keep in mind on my end, and I have lots of exploration and learning to do myself on accessibility and inclusiveness in in general, but in e-learning and
We
on-demand
all
learning.
do.
In all the way, yeah, yeah. Um, One thing that was very mindful of. I recently was on a project where we had a use case scenario in the curriculum, and we were choosing characters out of a lineup
Mhm.
of
Fun.
the branded characters that we were using,
Mhm.
and it was just very mindful of them all looking a little bit different, and it was it's just there in our minds and all of our minds now to say,
Yes.
well, let's do another quick glance over and see if just about everyone we could have
Mhm.
represented in any kind of way in a cast of 7 is in there. You know,
No, it's
I did
it's
that recently
actually
too.
some of the longest parts of a
Mhm.
process sometimes are just getting there, and I remember a client saying to me not long ago, "Can you please find any characters outside of storyline? They're all so pretty." And, you kinda look at
Mm.
it and you go, it's like a model kind of go up there, and you're like, "These are not real people. Like, that's
Mhm.
not what I look like. That's not what my people that are looking at this look like," and that's just that much of nothing of that piece of inclusivity, like making sure that
Mhm.
you're using and that it resonates correctly, right?
Mhm.
That's a tough one, but all right, I'm gonna swap over to if you were talking about your job, Erin, and I know there's so many things involved in your job and in the
Mhm.
work that you do, not even just instructional design, but the other work you do around brand awareness. So if
Mhm.
you're explaining how you make your living to someone, how do you do that? How do you explain it?
Well, the way that I started out explaining it when I was changing my career in the fall of 2020 and early last year, um, I explained to my peers and my colleagues and the people I knew that I would be designing and creating the bloodborne pathogen training, but
Nice.
better. Because in my previous line of work, every year, every staff member is required to watch and take and check off this a bloodborne pathogen training that was filmed in the 80s. I don't know. It's just not good e-learning. So my example was like, well, that I'm going to be doing that, but like much better. So that's still kind of where I fall when I'm explaining what I do. But I've also I've grown into, especially in the job that I'm in now and the work that I've been doing, I've grown my explanation into saying, I help adults better their careers through on-demand learning. And I think that's true. That's truly what I'm doing now. Providing
Yes.
whatever knowledge, skills are needed in a
Yeah.
certain line of work, that training, that's what I do. And the end result is people being able to either do their jobs better or advance in their careers, learn something new. So I really bring it all back to the career betterment now, which also
So,
fits into everything that I did in between the two careers when I was volunteering to help others, navigate the Great Resignation and finding their next line of work. It's all coming together beautifully.
it sounds like it. Just the way you talk about it, your whole face lights up, which is amazing.
Oh,
Right? It's so good to hear that, because the work can be difficult sometimes. And when you can still ignite that passion for it and know why you're doing it and feel
well,
really
I
good
have
about
to know
that.
that I'm helping people, and
Yeah.
that's a lot harder to know when
Yeah.
you aren't interacting with the learners yourself.
It's
It's just
true.
a lot harder to get that gratification, or
Yeah.
you know
Validation, right?
I
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, and
whoever
I miss having contact with learners. So I'm also expanding, like in my future, I've tried out, some virtual facilitation lately, and I think
nice.
I really want to grow in that. And then, as things start to open back up and we can navigate safely together, I'd love to add facilitation to, to my
Yeah.
skill set. Just
Oh,
so
you'd
like
be
I'm around the
fantastic.
people. Hmm.
Yeah, I
Thank
think you
you.
would, and I think you'd enjoy it as well. It's a great other piece of what we do, really. On
Hmm.
that note, like when you're doing your work and thinking about the work, what makes the process move really fast for you? Where you're like, where did the last 4 or 5 hours go? What would you be doing?
Um, in the let's see, in the lineup, if I
Mhm.
were to say, going from needs analysis all the way to, development, and then in my
Mhm.
current job, it's the finished product is handed off for um to go into the learning management system and spread its wings and fly. That's like I'm not necessarily a part of that in my current role. But if I were to look at that whole spread of the process, the instructional design process,
Mhm.
I really get lost in needs analysis. I absolutely love it. Like
Nice.
investigative. So not just needs analysis, yes, but then also like project scoping,
Mhm.
and everything like that. You should see. Oh my gosh, when I pull up like a Word doc, a Google Doc, and I'll start going through all the resources that the subject matter experts have
Yeah.
provided, and it's just a color coding, cut and paste, comment, lines drawn, like
Oh
it's
my.
that meme of Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where he's got his whole, do you know what I'm talking about? He's got the whole thing behind him.
The
He's
board,
going
the
he's
board.
like he's explaining it, and he's just completely strung out in how much work he's made connecting the dots on this crazy board. I don't know if you guys have seen that meme. I'll share it later on
Totally get it
one of the
though.
platforms so you know it. But
Please
that's
share it.
like that's
Yeah.
me.
But totally, and I think, Monique's making comments on her. I think you made a new best friend. That is like totally her favorite part.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Yay.
yeah, she
Yes,
and I've had
I
many
love it.
conversations, because not my favorite part at all. But I think we'd make good partners putting a whole thing together. I am a development girl
Yes.
myself.
Well, see, and then I would love to work with you. I love doing the whole instructional design process from start to finish, of course. But if you were like in this question, if you were to ask me where would I live for a couple of hours, it would be more, towards the beginning. So if you
Oh,
like to live in the development, I would
oh
love to
yeah,
work with you.
oh yeah. That's the
We could
most
do
fun
great
part.
stuff, and we don't even have to pass things off. Like we don't have to chunk up the process. But,
Just goes
if you
back
want
and
me to do a
forth.
little more heavy lifting at the beginning, and if you want me to get the storyboard together, I like
We need
that. I
to,
really
yeah,
like
we
that
need to
part.
talk offline on this one, because
Yeah, and then I'll
yeah, that would
pass
be
it on to you.
fun. Um, on that note, just to keep us, I have got to know, just because I've had a few conversations with you and I still don't know this. What's a favorite quote or mantra that you live by?
So I picked this. I wanted to answer this question because I wanted to share with you that I have not always had mantras for myself each year,
Okay.
but I decided to do it for 2021, and I can't remember exactly why or what influenced me or motivated me. But I came up with a mantra for myself for the year 2021, and I repeated it to myself all the time in everything that I did, and every choice that I made, and every rejection that I faced. I told myself over and over again to follow the future, and that
Mm.
was for all of 2021. And I did, right? I started this career. I had this job. This was all part of 2021. So I really did follow the future. And it was so successful when it came to having a personal mantra for me. Like I grew so attached to it that I decided I had to do it again for 2022. And then it had to be different because I was in a different place in my life. And I thought about it for at least 2 weeks, and I tried out tons of different things. And I finally landed on what my goal for this year is to pursue my potential. And I took out the my part, and I changed the way that it's phrased now is pursue your potential. Because in my mind, when lots of people ask me for advice, lots of people, LinkedIn, other places, they're asking me for advice. Alliteration for sure. I love alliteration.
Oh, you gotta love Kim.
My goal this year is to be able to say, not just to myself, Erin, pursue your potential and the decisions that you make and the doors that you walk through, but I also want to be able to say it to other people who ask me for advice. I want to be able to say, well, what I think you should do is pursue your potential. So that P alliteration is what's going on with me last year. It was the F alliteration the year before.
I can't wait to see what happens
next year. It'll be like, I don't know, maybe S. I'll pick a letter. In December, I guess.
Given that you've been doing this like for 9 months, is the work like what you expected it to be, or is it different?
It's exactly what I hoped it would be.
Oh, that's great.
And I realized that I remember talking to my manager early on within the first month or two that I was in this position. I remember talking to my manager and saying, this is exactly what I thought instructional design would be. And I was worried going into the position. I had misgivings that perhaps it would just be a position where I had to live in the authoring tools and the software and just develop all day. Which I already knew, even then, more towards the beginning of this career, that isn't where I wanted to spend, all of my time. So when I got into this position and I found that I was expected to take the process in like a generalist way from, taking a project from basically the kickoff through the handoff, at the end, I was very pleased. And I love the work.
It's a great control feeling. I mean, it is. There's I say I don't like the beginning part, but I don't know if I could do the development if I didn't do the analysis myself, because you do get steeped in the content. It helps to really form the pictures in your mind that then end up on the screen and in that script. So it's wild, though. So I could talk to you all day, and I know we didn't hit all of the questions we talked about because this has been amazing, and we're going to have to bring you back. But I've been told to wrap it up by my producer. So I can't let you leave without a speed round, because that's definitely, I don't know about you guys out in the audience, my favorite part of this is putting you on the spot and asking you speed questions. So you ready?
No.
No? They're easy. They're not hard.
You are, I promise.
You're ready. What's the last song that you listened to? You can hum a few bars if you don't know the name.
The theme song of The Office when it plays at the beginning of the show.
Okay. How about the last book you read? Actual book, not blog.
I think that the last book that I read, I think the last book that I read was Girl, Woman, Other.
Ooh, that sounds good. I'm going to need to get a download of that after this. what if you do you fanboy or fangirl anyone?
Like a person?
Like a person, could be a person in L&D, could be a person in a famous person, could be just a person you admire, like your grandma. What do you like that?
I fangirl my grandmother. Since you gave me that one, I have to. I have to use it. That's why she's a big part of my branding and how, and you know, and a big part of what how I put myself out there. So I fangirl my grandmother.
That's a beautiful thing. And it's a beautiful gift she gave you, your gift of flowers and plants. And we're going to have a whole day on that as well. Okay.
Have you started gardening yet?
Oh, I have. So sort of. We are in a new season here in Connecticut. I'm calling it Sprinter. So I literally was power washing the deck on Saturday, getting all my seedlings out for my sunflowers. Didn't put anything in the dirt, but just sort of started laying things out. And then lo and behold, by the end of the day, there was 1.5 inches of snow.
It snowed. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yesterday. And so I'm looking out at beautiful snow right now. And so I'm getting ready and I'm anxious, but all I have is a big jar full of seeds right now waiting for me.
It's similar in Virginia. It's still a bit of a waiting game.
It's crazy. Yes, it's definitely Sprinter. But thank you guys. I am definitely being told in the chat by Monique that we have to close it up. So it was so good talking to you, Erin. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Lisa. Thanks for talking with me about instructional design.
I thank you for talking to us about it. It was an awesome conversation. Everyone, thank you guys for listening to us. By the way, our next guest is I can't speak today. Our next guest is April 26th, and that's Danielle Kale, and she's going to talk to Monique about design thinking and creativity. So we hope to see you there, and please check in on all of TLDC's fantastic content. I mentioned the accessibility conference from a few weeks ago, or a few months ago rather now, outstanding. And if you are interested in coming on the cast with us, please get in touch with us at intersectionsinlearning@gmail.com. And you can also leave us notes in the chat, reach out through Slack anyway. And thank you guys for being here today. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you.
Have a good one, everyone.
Bye.
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 Thanks again for listening. And if you find value in our content, please consider supporting TLDC with a membership. Go to the tldc.com/join to sign up and get access to hundreds of our recorded videos, free entry to all of our live and virtual conferences and events, and much more. Your support helps us continue to build community and share valuable resources for L&D professionals around the world.